morning. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We are here for a workshop meeting. It is exactly 5:30 p.m. and this evening I'd like to ask TJ Wilkerson to give us the invitation.
Lord, we come tonight with humble hearts and bowed heads. Lord, we come asking you to search our heart. Lord, if you find anything that is against our will, then will you cast it in the sea of forgiveness. Lord, we come thanking you for your angel named grace and your angel named mercy. May grace and mercy watch over us, Lord. May we come with open hearts tonight and listening ears. Guide us as we go forward as a council. Watch over this city. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, now we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Texas flag? And the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Ms. Hensley, I'd like to note that we have a quorum here. We are missing Councilman Kevin Lacey this time. All right. There's a citizen forum. I didn't receive anything, so we'll move. Oh, can I ask everyone to make sure your phones are turned off or on vibrate? That would be helpful. Thanks. Workshop meeting. Number 1, presentation regarding Redbird Meadow Development, camera track.
All right. On September 23rd, the mayor, city staff, and consultants had a preliminary meeting with the developer and their consultants to plan Redbird Meadow development on the property previously discussed as the camera track. They asked to make an introductory presentation to inform the city council of their plans moving forward. City staff and consultants will continue to work with them on a development agreement that will be back before city council at a future time.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. My name is Terry Sin. I am one of the owners of Redbird Meadows Development. We've been developing business for roughly 30 years. We've completed 25 projects, ranging anywhere from 25 acres to 800 acres. The last project we just finished took us 18 years to complete. It's on the Grand Parkway in Katy. Our estimated value that we created on that project alone was over $600 million. It has 1,000 homes, Walmart, Kroger, Amazon, and lots of other businesses, restaurants, things like that. We also have a project very near here called Pine Lake Cove. It's 320 acres. It's a smaller community in the city of Conroe. We did a public-private partnership with the city. They didn't have any utilities within the area over 3 miles away. So we basically agreed to build a water plant and a wastewater treatment plant on our dime, and then get reimbursed from the city down the road. Without that, it was a win-win for both. And the city has been very good to work with, and we have started selling now. We've got to pull 75 permits. We have 53 homes already sold, and we haven't started a single home. There'll be 1,000 homes there. We have commercial. We have one multifamily community with about 240 units, and our estimated value in that community is about $340 million. It's a great project for the city and the county. Our project here, we're keeping the Redbird Meadows Ranch as its name. It's been known for many, many, many years. And it's our intent to keep that property looking basically the same way it does today. We'll have a total of 552 home sites. The smallest property will be 60 by 140. We'll have 85 by 170s and 110-foot lots by 200, which are half-acre lots. Our values will range, average value will be roughly $650,000. So we'll generate a value, taxable value of roughly $358 million. We have asked the city of Montgomery to annex us into their city. We're not a utility user. We're going to help with the city utilities. We're going to pay our share and help support the city. We'll also create an in-city MUD, which will be an additional tax to our residents that live in our community only, which will foot the bill for our on-site utilities and some of our shared costs with the city. We do have builders. I'm not at liberty to tell you who they are right now, but we have about 6 or 7 on the list. We'll end up with at least 2, maybe 3 builders. Most of them are national home builders. No production builder. These will be, basically custom homes. That's really kind of the cream on the top. We're anxious to get started, and we're looking forward to working with the city. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Annette Stevens. If y'all can hear me all right. I'm an attorney at ABHR. The mayor and the staff invited us tonight. We appreciate being here to sort of introduce some of the council members who may not be familiar with municipal utility districts. ABHR is, this is kind of what we do. It's our bread and butter. We represent, create these special districts for residential and commercial development. And we prepared a little presentation slideshow. I'm going to run through the slides, but feel free to interrupt me as we go and ask any questions that you may have. We're obviously not bound by the slides, so if something comes to you and you ask me a question, please, I'm happy to field any questions you may have. So what is a municipal utility district? It's a political subdivision, state of Texas, just like a school district. It is created over a limited area, certain acreage, to provide water, sewer, drainage, park, recreational facilities, and roads. Limited purposes, those are the only types of services and utilities that may provide. MUDs are a way to provide these municipal services to areas that are either within or without a city that don't have those services. Either the city can't afford to extend the services itself, or the city wants the new development to actually pay for that, the new infrastructure. Benefits of a MUD. The biggest benefit is the new road pays for itself. As Perry alluded to, the district that's created will create enough taxable value to eventually pay for, through the issuance of tax-exempt bonds for utilities that serve the land within its boundaries. One of the other primary benefits is it creates high-quality infrastructure. A municipal utility district is highly regulated in the state of Texas. All public infrastructure that's constructed has to be in compliance not only with city codes, TCQ regulations. The city is, the entity that's responsible for approving all the plans, and will also follow up with inspections once the infrastructure is actually constructed. The TCQ comes back when we go to sell bonds to pay for this infrastructure, to actually inspect the facilities to ensure that it's constructed in accordance with all state regulations. So it's a highly regulated type of infrastructure. Local control. The municipal utility district is governed by its own board and dictates the pace of development, and also, levies its own tax. So the residents within the MUD will actually, and I'll explain this a little bit later on, they will be entitled to vote for the board, run for the board, and they will be the ones that will be controlling the tax rate in their district. Bonds that are going to be sold to pay for the public infrastructure will be sold at a tax-exempt basis, which allows for a lower interest rates. And one of the key components, and which is something that Texas prides itself on, is affordable new housing. And one of the reasons for this is the ability of these special districts to finance its infrastructure. The infrastructure costs that the developer finances rather than loaded into the cost of the lot and home, can later, and rather the taxpayer through the issuance of taxes and bonds will eventually, amortize the debt and pay for the infrastructure. So it enables for the lot and the home prices to not have to include the cost of the infrastructure. MUDs are very, very prevalent in the state of Texas. Texas has over 1,200 special districts. This includes MUDs, management districts, water control and improvement districts, a variety of different types of districts. There are over 124 active special districts in Montgomery County. Over 2 million Texans live in special districts like MUDs. Majority of the MUDs are overland outside of the city limits, but many cities have some sort of special district within its boundaries. Conroe, City of Houston, Pearland, Sugar Land, Missouri City, College Station, a number of municipalities have in-city districts. MUDs have been used to develop almost all of the major master plan communities in the greater Houston area. And the reason for this is that just the ability to, the infrastructure costs can be absorbed by the community in aggregated phases. All right, next slide. What do MUDs do? Primarily, they construct and operate water, sewer, and drainage facilities. They can construct public roads. The roads will be conveyed to the city or county for ownership and operation. They can construct and operate park and recreational facilities. And then they finance the public infrastructure through bonds to reimburse the developer the cost of facilities. This is another important point about special districts in Texas, is districts can't issue what we call raw land bonds. They can't speculate as to what type of development will be out there and sell bonds based on a speculated value. The TCQ highly regulates MUDs, and they only allow MUDs to sell bonds to reimburse the developer once there's sufficient above the ground taxable value. You have to have a number of homes on the ground and enough value in this area, in Montgomery County, to reimburse the developer at a tax rate not to exceed $1.50. And that includes, in this case, also the city's tax rate. So there are safeguards built in, and that's why MUDs have been so highly successful in the state of Texas. Regulations applicable to MUDs, I've just kind of named a few. They can only exercise those powers granted in the Texas Constitution, unlike home rule cities that have other implied powers MUDs cannot. They, as I said before, all plans for public infrastructure are subject to city codes and ordinances. Infrastructure is regulated by the TCQ. Everything is subject to EPA requirements. I referred to MUDs are regulated by the TCQ as to when they can issue debt, the feasibility rules. Everything all bonds issued by the MUD must be approved by the Attorney General of Texas. We also must comply with the Open Meetings Act and Public Information Act. We are similar to cities and counties. We have the same types of rules. The boards have to meet an open meeting, notice has to be published. And then similarly, board members are also subject to all ethics rules as city council members. Creation activation, there's two ways to create MUDs. One is through the TCEQ, which is primarily a legislative process. The other is through the Texas legislature. If a MUD is in a city's ETJ or corporate limits, the city must consent to the creation of the MUD. And then in connection with that consent, the landowner and the city negotiate other terms for providing services to the MUDs through a development or utility agreement. So the city is partners really with the MUD in setting forth the development expectations. A MUD is governed by a 5-member board. It's initially appointed by the TCQ and later elected by residents in the MUD. The elections are similar to city elections, county elections. They're all conducted in accordance with the Texas Election Code. The board oversees the management of the MUD. They are charged, as I said here, with developing the facilities in the manner that's in the best interest of the residents. And they employ a number of professional consultants to advise the board and make recommendations on action items. The MUD board does not have a staff like the city does, so they employ a, attorney, engineer, auditor, bookkeeper, tax assessor, collector to perform all those functions. Let's see, what is the role of the developer? Is that the next one? Yeah, so the role of the board, they are the policy-making decision. The board's charged with developing the facilities, and then the MUD's consultants implement those policy decisions. Role of the developer, they request the creation of the MUD. Developer's the landowner. They're the one that drives the need for the MUD. They will loan the MUD the finances to actually construct the public infrastructure, and then the developer may be reimbursed once sufficient value is constructed in the district. As I said, there's a number of consultants that the MUD has. Attorney acts as general counsel to the board on public law, contract, and limited real estate matters, and will also serve as bond counsel and tax counsel when litigation debt. Auditor audits the MUD books once a year. It is a TCQ requirement. Bookkeeper keeps the books on an ongoing basis, keeps financial records of the MUD. MUD expenses may only be made by the MUD board. Checks, it's still old-fashioned. They still have to actually sign. 3 board members have to sign the check. And then the financial advisor advises the board on issuing debt. Tax assessor collector issues expense and tax bills and collects tax payments. And then if there were an operator, which there would be if we were in city Montgomery, they would operate the utility system. So, as a political subdivision of the state of Texas, we have the ability to levy a tax. The tax has to be voted by the voters in the district. So, no tax or no bonds may be issued by the MUD until they are voted by the residents of the district. Once it's approved and voted in, the MUD has the ability to levy an operation and maintenance tax and a debt service tax within its boundaries. It only will issue levy a debt service tax, obviously, once bonds are issued. It is an unlimited tax. There's no state statutory limitation, but the TCQ imposes limitations for districts in certain counties. We can't issue bonds if our tax rate would exceed $1.50 in Montgomery County. Reimbursement to the developer. It is a slow game for a developer to be reimbursed. Typically, it takes several years by the time they actually advance the payment before they are reimbursed. The MUD and the developer enter into what we call a development financing agreement or a reimbursement agreement, where the developer agrees to advance the funds, the MUD agrees to reimburse the developer for the public infrastructure once the value is there and the TCQ approves the bond issuance. Only public infrastructure is reimbursed. So it's only the public water, sewer, drainage roads. You have to have value on the ground before you begin the reimbursement process, and roughly sort of 10 to 1 debt to excess value ratio before you can actually sell bonds. So you've got to have a significant amount of value on the ground, and you need to have actual rooftops. Lastly, just kind of a quick summary of how the district issues bonds. As I said, the decision is made once the value is there, the homes are there, and the value out there can support the debt. It is a decision amongst the consultants and the board. They would submit an application to TCQ. TCQ generally takes 6 months to approve the application. Once it's approved, the district can then go ahead and sell bonds. It is a competitive process. It is not a sealed bid process. Everything has to be competitively bid, not a negotiated sale. Once the sale, after the PCQ approves bonds and the district receives competitive bids, the transcript is then sent to the Attorney General's office. They also review the transcript to make sure that the proceedings are legally done. And then we finally reimburse the developer once an independent audit is performed. So there are a lot of checks and balances in place. A lot of information, a lot of minutia. I'm happy to field questions now or later, or go back to anything that you feel you have additional questions on.
I have a couple questions for you. Sorry, I'm your resident question person.
No, we
But,
all have questions.
I didn't hear you mention it here, but from my understanding on MUDs, they're in lieu of the city tax, correct? Not in conjunction with.
It is in conjunction with. So if a MUD is in the ETJ, not within the boundaries of the city, there is no city overlap. If it is within the boundaries of the MUD, it is in conjunction with the city tax, just for those residents within, for example, Redbird, Meadows. And that's something that the developer has to take into consideration, and the board, when they set the tax rate, because they want to make sure that it's a competitive tax rate.
For the city, MISD, and then.
Yeah. And then
It
if,
also has to be disclosed when people buy property.
Yes,
So
exactly right,
people
Alan.
buying houses in the mud know what the tax rate is going to be.
Yeah,
No surprises.
exactly.
and my next question's probably from Mr. Sims, but did you look into a PID over a MUD, or no, MUD's just what you always used? And so I just, at some point, would like our taxpayers to not have this overwhelming MUD tax, and so that's always my question, is a PID versus a MUD.
Right, and so a PID is a very different animal, as I'm sure you're aware. It is an assessment as opposed to a tax.
But it's a flat fee that has an expiration term.
Yes, it does. Now, there's a couple of different, that's a whole nother conversation. But a PID typically, you want to jump in, Barry, but a PID, when you levy an assessment to reimburse the developer, say for $10 million worth of infrastructure costs, if you are reimbursing on a pay-as-you-go basis, just basically from an annual collection of assessments, the developer, it takes years and years and years for them to ever be reimbursed. Same way if you didn't issue bonds and just paid them back from the collection of taxes. A bond that is payable from assessment, if you were going to do a more efficient way to reimburse, bears a much higher interest rate, and a PID is not a distinct political subdivision. It is actually an entity that is created by the city, in this case, and so that would be debt that would be part of the city's portfolio, and it's a decision that municipalities need to make as to whether or not they want to allow the PID debt to be on their books at a much higher interest rate. It's difficult to collect and enforce as opposed to having a tax. So and I'll let Perry jump in, the development decision for a MUD, while there is a overlay of tax, typically what that homeowner receives is the benefits and the amenities associated with a high-quality infrastructure. A tax also will only be levied for so long as the MUD is in existence, right? So eventually, after the debt is all paid off, the city has the ability to dissolve the MUD.
Just for clarification, we've got 5 minutes. We've got a hard stop at 6 o'clock for our meeting, but go ahead, Julie. I just wanted to give a time check.
Yeah.
If somebody else has a question.
And Alan, are we allowed to set any kind of limits within this dollar? It can't exceed $1.50. Are we as a city allowed to set any limits in regards to their MUD district, assuming that we are even going to approve it at some point?
Sure.
Wait, I was asking our attorney, I'm sorry. Alan.
Oh, sure.
So you're entitled to enter into a development agreement that can set out parameters for them to follow. So that's typically part of that process.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, one last
Yes, sir.
comment. I just want everyone to know that our MUD tax does not create a tax on any existing homeowners located within the city of Montgomery. It's total, it's just for our community only. We pay the city tax, we pay the school tax, we pay the county, and our MUD tax. So,
But you are asking to be annexed. You are asking to be annexed, and so all 552 of these new homes that you're projecting, and we're extremely grateful for a $358 million asset adding to the city. But those 552 homes are constituents that then will be a part of the city that we will have to answer to. So I understand what you're saying on it's not a tax to our current residents, but it's a tax to our future residents, which means that it is a tax to our current residents because then they all live and work together.
But I was still going to this MUD's not going to affect what I pay on a yearly basis.
No.
And then if you move into this
But as a city
subdivision, that's your choice. It's nobody's forcing you
Absolutely.
into.
Absolutely.
That's I always say it's voluntarily. You take on that tax.
Alan correctly pointed out, there's a notice to purchasers that we're required to file in the deed records that makes it really clear. what the tax
So
is.
does our city staff have a projection based on that evaluation in current, let's say, city tax? Is that 1.5 million or so per year projected for us?
Chris?
I did it in my head.
Well, we wouldn't know the future taxes.
You wouldn't, but just if it was
If you did it
saying.
today?
Yeah, if you
Is
just
that what
did it
you're saying
today and kept it at 40 cents. Is that about right?
Can we pull up the calculator?
So we did a feasibility study on this property back in January. So that's what Chris is pulling up, because that's something that we look at whenever we do the feasibility study is what's the taxable value, not only the taxable value, but then the taxable income, therefore, that's coming to the city.
So back in January, when we did this, the estimated value that we used was $258,000.
Right.
So since then, they increased the size of the homes, quality of homes. So based on that number, for your debt service rate, you're looking at approximately $293,000 a year, and for your operation maintenance tax rate, it's approximately $690,000 a year.
Almost a million.
That's 2/3 of what they're now. I mean, we had another $100 million on top of that.
I just calculated at 1.4 million, so you were pretty close.
Should we encourage, Alan, other questions? We are running up against 6 o'clock to go to you. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Very informative. Very informative. So,
Do we have
okay.
contact info?
Huh?
Do we have contact info? Or are we just forwarding it all through Richard to them?
We need to adjourn. I know, I gotta get my superintendent out of here at like 6 o'clock. So, we've got his own meeting. Can somebody has the motion to adjourn, please?
I'm making a motion.
All those in favor of adjourn, say aye. Aye. Those say no. The ayes have it, the motion carries. At 6 o'clock, we will adjourn.
I did.
I think.
Thank you, sir. Right?
Everybody? Yeah, we all did, really.
I hate to rush, but he's got somewhere to be. I promise him. Yes, that's right. I agree. I put my word.
Are you fixing to start right away, or?
Yeah, well, I gotta get him out at 6 o'clock. I told him 6 or 7 was the time. So it was 6 o'clock. I got to call it.
Yeah.
do that.
Terry put his name on it.
Let's do it.
Good evening. It is 6:01 PM, and I'd like to call this city council meeting to order. This is just us city business. I'd like to ask everyone to please take your cell phone and turn it off or turn it to vibrate so that we are not interrupted during this meeting. This evening we'll have the invocation given by Byron Sanford.
Lord, again, we thank you for the grace and the favor that we see in our families and our community. Ask as the great physician that you are, you continue to heal us physically and in every way. And Lord, just give us wisdom as we go forward in our policy making. And Lord, may we do all what we do and speak all that we speak for your glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the United States flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now the Texas flag. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. All right, we've got something on the agenda. We've got to get the superintendent out of here. So the item number 1 on your agenda is consideration of possible action regarding adopting a proclamation for World Teachers Day. And the proclamation for World Teachers Day, City of Montgomery. Whereas the City of Montgomery future strength depends on providing a high-quality education to all students, and whereas teacher quality matters more to student achievement than any other school-related factor, and whereas teachers spend countless hours preparing lesson plans and supporting students, and whereas our Montgomery Independent School District teachers have demonstrated great resilience, adaptability, and creativity during the COVID-19 crisis, and whereas our community recognizes and supports its teachers in educating the children of this community, and whereas Teachers Can is a statewide movement supported by more than 125 partnering businesses and organizations committed to elevating the teaching profession and honoring the critical role teachers play in the success of Texas. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Montgomery City Council joins Teachers Can and its partnering entities across Texas in celebrating World Teachers Day and proclaims October 5th, 2021 to be Montgomery Teachers Day. And be it further resolved that the City of Montgomery Mayor and members of the City Council encourages members of our community to personally express appreciation to our teachers and display a light blue ribbon outside your homes or business the week of October 5th as a symbol of support for our Montgomery Independent School District educators. Passed, approved, and adopted this 28th day of September 2021. And we have Dr. Heath Morrison here to accept the award. Thank you for all you do. All right. Now, on the agenda next is the citizen and visitors forum. As I receive these, I will go ahead and call your name out. Just as a reminder, you have 3 minutes to speak. We will put on a timer, and then we ask you to go ahead and your time is up and let the next person speak. And we will get started. I will call up Jenny Stewart of 205 Kings Lane with Nemo Esmeralda as on deck, please. So if you want to go ahead and stand by, Mrs. Stewart, that'd be great. Thank you so much.
Good evening. I just wanted to thank all of you in the city who are doing the smoke testing. through the sewer lines in Kings Lane or in Lone Star Estates. I'm also requesting a copy of the smoke testing report and any findings in Lone Star Estates. The good news is you guys flushed out snakes. One house got 2 snakes out of the toilet and the other house got 1 snake out. So obviously they're getting in somewhere, and if you'll be able to find the problem, we can fix it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Esmeralda is next of 110 Racetrack, and next after that is Bill Clevenger on deck.
Howdy, Mayor, council members, citizens. Thank you. I'll try to be quick and brief as possible, 3 minutes. Name is Esmeralda. I'm a resident here in Lake Creek Village. I've been for around 5 years here with my wonderful wife. Quick background, I was in the Marine Corps 12 years. I'm a police officer down in Houston for about 6 years now. I've been a skater for over 20 years in my life. Oddly, right? We don't look like this. But I wanted to propose something. I've been reading over the comprehensive plan 2020, and I like how it just elaborates a lot on how it wants our division is for creating public spaces. And I think, skate parks could be a great architectural art to our community, depending on where you see them. I mean, there's eyesore ones, and that's not what I'm proposing. I'm proposing we can create a skate park that our youth can go to and see, and just an architectural art piece for our community. I mean, we love it. My wife calls it a hallmark town. And it's not really missing a lot, but, we just want to add to it. Some notable mentions for skateboarding. It was in the Olympics this year, and, it's so diverse because you have from 13-year-old pro skater girls that are dominating the field to old school skaters. There might be some around here that skate bowls and just cruise around. So it's really for everybody. The skate park wouldn't be just for younger people, but older as well, to include razors, scooters, bikes, rollerblades, stuff like that. A lot of benefits of skating. I mean, it gives our kids a place to grow in a safe environment in our own community. I know there's a lot of parks nearby, like in Conroe, Woodland, stuff like that, but I would like to see it where we bring it to our own community. And there's a ton of benefits I can go over. I don't have a lot of time, but the benefits specifically to our community is really the new soccer mom. You have a mom show up at a park, a lot of kids pop out, and they're out there in the community. The difference for our community would be they can walk to the restaurants, to the the new cafe, have ice cream with their kids, eat lunch at the burger place, do all those things within walking distance. I feel it really can tie into our community. So it's not a one-sided type of thing at the skate park. I think it can be something that serves both sides, from our commercial side to our youth and recreation side of it. I know the vision also mentioned it aims to make a place for our families to grow, live, work, play, and shop. I really think the skate park can do that for our community. It also mentions the age distribution with the youth 20 and under making a significant portion of the population here in our community, and I feel we kind of have a gap in that area without stuff like a skate park, basketball courts, tennis rackets and stuff like that. So I really feel like this could fill in that gap. Don't get me wrong, I love Montgomery Park. We go for bike rides all the time through our community. You might see us out there. But in conclusion, I really hope we can balance out the recreational growth and the commercial growth in our community, and hope you consider, getting a skate park. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your service.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and on deck, after Mr. Clevenger, is Kay Jenkins.
Hi, my name is Bill Clevenger, 388 Berkeley Drive. It is just by pure coincidence. My wife Paula had actually said she's taking my son, our son, and his friends to the skateboard park in Conroe. And she had proposed the idea to several folks in the community, and former council member Tom Croman, and I think he voiced it, that the newly acquired property that the city purchased down here on Klepper would make an excellent skateboard park. And so my 3 minutes that I wanted to talk about was the simple fact that we have tremendous growth up 105. Nobody can deny that. We're always talking about downtown. This Thursday we have something that is going to probably, take center light. But beyond all that, and all of us, what we're doing, we're trying to make a better community for our children. I think there's this huge gap that kids are left out from ages. I mean, these kids, you see young kids from age 2 water skiing and snowboard skiing, and I'm sure they do it on skateboard. I've never been called on skateboard, I'd be man down. But I think there's a huge gap that we're letting out from kids age 3 to 17, 18, that there's nothing to do in this town. I mean, it's just a sad fact. There's nothing to do for the kids at that age group. I mean, granted, I get to see them, you know, from snowball stands to ice cream. They hang out at Burger Fresh. Some of them sip coffee, you know, at Wilbur Love and the other coffee shop and this and that. But really, there's nothing to entertain these kids in Montgomery. They're off to the Woodlands or they're off down into Houston and this and that. And I implore the council members, mayor, city administrator, everybody, go out and work with the developers and entice them to come in and sell Montgomery, and let's see if we can't bring in some development of things for these kids to do, because why not have the kids here? Why not have the parents here? Why not build the essence of community right in our community? And that's it. But I just wanted you to stand up because it was just like, woo, you see where we're coming. You were saying the exact same thing that a lot of other people are saying. And again, I applaud you for your service. Please be safe down there. But let's work together, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, Kate Jenkins, and on deck is Beth Galt. Kate, if you would please say your name and your address. Okay.
Hi all, I'm Kate Jenkins and my address is 14809 Lake Mount Pleasant Road. I'm the owner of Builder Love Coffee, the trailer in downtown Montgomery. First of all, I just wanted to thank the city on the work that y'all are doing, preparing for the Thursday night, the work and the research that y'all have put in, looking into possible ordinances and looking into how food trucks operate in other areas. And so I just wanted to thank y'all for what y'all are doing. I look forward to that meeting, and we're very hopeful, first, that we can open at 7 a.m. Hopefully in the future we would love to serve coffee. We've unfortunately had to turn many people away before while we're setting up that come hoping for coffee and can't get it. But we're hopeful and excited for what the future holds, and hopeful that, and I do feel certain that y'all are thinking what's best for this city, and so I'm excited to see what happens. I'm excited to see how we pave the way for many more people to start small businesses and to see them flourish in this town, and what can come. And it's just been so exciting as we've been there for three months in the downtown area. I hope that our presence has blessed this community. I hope that people have felt seen and loved by us, and I know we've felt seen and loved by other people. And I can say one of my favorite parts multiple times each week is whenever the gentleman that just spoke a minute ago and his wife ride their bike up there, and it just feels like community, and it just feels like home, and it feels like everything that I hope to see so much more of in downtown Montgomery. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Galt, and then the last but not least, John Champagne.
What's her last name, sir?
G-A-U-R-T.
Thank you for letting me speak. I'm here as a private citizen. I live at 606 College in the historic district. I'm a big library user, and you don't know how lucky Montgomery is to have our little library. It's very unusual. Very unusual. But I don't think you know, and probably don't know, how many people use that library. It serves constituents in the same district as the schools. And it gives a whole lot of people reason to come to Montgomery and spend their money. So we get all kinds of people from Maple Sound and Walden, and they come use the library, and then they stay and eat at Chick-fil-A or go to Kroger's and spend their money in our little town. So even though it's a county facility, it is very important to the economy of this little town. And according to the Texas State Library and Archives Commission, Bureau of Business Research Institute at UT Austin determined that for every dollar invested in Texas public libraries, the community sees a $4.64 return in access to resources, programming, services, and technology. That's a lot. That's a lot. All coming into this little town. Now, the last normal year, of course, before COVID, was October 2018 through September 2019. 94,425 people visited the library and checked out 201,155 items.
It's the size of Conroe. When it came to that little library.
7,595 people used the free public computers. And a lot of people don't even know that we have free public computers. I'm not in the library, but I just live there half the time. 8,288 attended in-house library programs for adults, young adults, and children. Those are all virtual right now still. 1,024 participated in computer instruction classes. That's all from how to use a mouse to much more difficult things. But the library does all this for free if you have a library card. It helps to be computer savvy, but you can learn bits and pieces of this or have a librarian to do it for you. You basically can just be at home, and I would have died during the epidemic if I didn't have my library card and could go in there and get ebooks and look on databases and stuff. But there's a whole lot of things that people don't know. They don't know that you can get books from 39 different libraries. There's a little truck that goes around. They don't know that the libraries have subscriptions up. It's already free. You did a great job, Matt. Anyway, you can get a lot of things for free.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, John Champagne.
Hello, I'm John Champagne, City Private Citizen. I wasn't going to talk about recreational and skating, but since you brought it up, I personally, and not to be a downer, I love recreation. I'm still coaching baseball, Little League baseball, believe it or not. Kids don't especially like me, but I still do. I would just think about it long and hard. The core of services for this city is, I've always said, toilets, water, police, roads, sidewalks. It'd be nice to be able to comply and supply walking areas for the entire community without jumping into ditches and missing cars the way it's being done now. This place is really beautiful. And to walk around, since COVID came, a lot of people have found that it's nice to walk around. So skating, I get it. What percentage of the population would benefit from skating? I'm not. And the point is, I'm not against it. I'm just, as far as priorities are concerned, a recreational department can be a huge drain on a city budget and brings all kinds of problems. I'm not against it, just, okay, second thing. I would like to officially, probably should have done this in an email, but I'd like a listing of the individual salaries of staff, of everyone. And that would include any benefits not listed in hard currency, such as the use of a bit of a company truck and or car for personal use to come from home to business. If it's listed with a dollar amount, I'd like to see it in there. And if it is, that's fine. I think it's part of public information and it can be provided. The last thing is, and I didn't talk to Kevin about this, what's your address on?
Which one?
The one,
305 Berkeley Drive.
Berkeley Drive.
Yeah.
When we get a variance in special use for Jacobs to do his, I don't know what you call it, it's a rental and a bunch of cottages that he will rent. The variance was based on him mitigating the flow that was initiated by cleaning up that property. Prior to that, the shrubs and the brush slowed the flow coming downhill. It's pretty severe grade. I don't know firsthand the flooding situation in your home, but I was driving by during a hard rain, and it's coming down pretty good. part of the agreement was to make sure he mitigated and rerouted the flow. I would like to see that done as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Okay, next on your agenda is the consent agenda, number 2.
Mayor, before we do that, I don't believe we took action on it.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. Okay. I need you to make a motion to accept the consideration of possible action on item number 1, council.
I make a motion that we accept item 1 as presented.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we accept item number 1 as presented. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. It's open for discussion. All those in favor of accepting item number 1 as presented, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept item number 1 as presented. Now, item number 2 on your agenda, consideration matters related to the approval of minutes of September 14th, 2021, public hearing and regular meeting.
I make a motion that we accept item 2 as presented.
I second.
It has been moved and seconded that we accept item 2 as presented. This motion is debatable, amendable, and requires majority vote. It is open for discussion. All those in favor of accepting item number 2 as presented, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept item number 2 as presented. Consideration and possible action. Next item of business on your agenda is item number 3. Consideration of possible action regarding renewal of the 2021-2022 medical, dental, AD&D, life, and vision benefits for the TML Health Benefits Pool.
The renewal rate for January 2022 starting includes a 1% increase from last year. This coverage will be with Blue Cross Blue Shield through the Texas Municipal Health Benefits Pool. The city currently pays 100% of the full-time employee coverage. This year, council also budgeted for the city to pay 50% of employees' dependents coverage. There's a chart in there that shows the coverage, employee only, employee and spouse, employee with children, and employee and family including spouse and children. The current rates being paid, the new rates, what they would be, and then the cost of the 50% supplement for employees with dependents. This is presented to council for its approval for this evening. And just one side note, with the coverage being through the Texas Municipal Benefits Pool, they go out and they give coverage for the pool. The current year that is preparing to end, they're switching providers away from United Healthcare to Blue Cross Blue Shield because they got better coverage and better rates there.
Have you been able to talk to staff or department heads to see, are they excited about this? Are we?
As we talk to staff and department heads, there are a number who are preparing to, when we get the renewal, to begin that coverage. And I believe it's in November, October. Open enrollment is the first week in November. Okay, open enrollment is the first week in November, so that's really where we will kick it off directly with staff. And we can lay in front of them and say, here's the new policy, and here's what it will cost you to cover your family. Yeah. And there are those, as you know, there are those staff who have been choosing to cover their family members, but not with the city policy on other policies. And so I think with the benefits that were recently approved by council and authorized through this item, assuming approval, that they will make that jump back here. I know from the ones I've heard and talked to directly, they're looking forward to that.
So by the first meeting in November, you'll be able to kind of give us.
Probably second meeting.
You think the second
meeting, probably.
Yeah, so we'll have to do all the benefits.
I want to know, like, remember you were giving us this big number on the budget? Like, I'm mentally going, what does this number really look like? And so now I kind of want to know as we start the year.
Well, I will give council at the first meeting in November what information we have. I don't know that at that point we'll be final.
Okay.
But at the very least, I can give you what the indications are. If it has to be final information, I'll tell you that. I believe our first meeting is the 9th of November.
Oh, that's kind of tight, yeah.
It's kind of tight on timeline. Yeah. But it doesn't mean then I can always supplement that and go, hey, now that we're another meeting down the road, last meeting I said was going to be 15 people. Well, hey, it's actually 18 people because the last 3 came over to the side. But I'll give you the information that I have at the time of the meeting.
And I have talked to staff, and a lot of them are excited. They were thankful. They were
I would
grateful.
think so.
I make a motion that we approve item 3 as presented, and we request a follow-up by the end of November from Richard.
I'll second.
It has been moved and seconded that we accept item number 3 as presented, along with a follow-up from Richard in November, the end of November. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. It is open for discussion. All those in favor of accepting item number 3 as presented with a note that we should hear from Richard at the end of November with any updates, say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept item number 3 with the addition of hearing from Richard at the end of November. Item number 4 on your agenda, consideration of possible action to approve a professional services agreement with Azavar.
Azavar came to my attention as a provider of the services related to collection of lodging taxes, including short-term rentals, which is a service that the city was looking for. The city of Conroe is currently among Azavar's satisfied clients, which is how they came to my attention as I talked to some of the administrators and managers for the local cities. They would provide a portal for the collection of necessary information, as well as the hotel tax fees related to lodging services. The cost of using this portal is $8 per report, which would be passed on to the entity paying the lodging taxes when they file them. In addition, Azavar would seek out locations that should be paying those taxes and work to collect the taxes owed on a commission basis. For this work, they would receive 22% of the collections, or of the new collections, for 22 months. They would also perform this service for sales tax payers and provide reports on the sales tax for us for up to 12 months at no charge. While sales tax reporting is not the primary reason we're seeking to engage Azavar, this could become part of our future sales tax process. As it was discussed during the budget timeline, we're looking for ways to bring more of that either in-house or more cost-effective. As I said here, they would provide that at no cost for up to 12 months. So we were already looking at potential items with our current provider and moving away from that more on staff. I think that as additional service could be a good transition for us.
So the contract was a little bit confusing. I did read the 22% for 22 months. We pay nothing for 12. But then down towards the end, it states that we would pay $1,800 a year after 10/1 of 2022. Is this an estimated what the 22% will be, or is that on top of the 22% that we're mentioning?
That would be on top of, that would be an annual fee with them.
So if we sign up by 10/1, they waive the $2,500 startup fee. This is basically the annual. I got you.
Which is the annual fee plus, startup and entry fee. Obviously, they're waiving that for the first year because they want this.
Right.
And I will just add that the contract did go through the city attorney's review.
And we have budgeted to have around 17,000, I believe, is what was budgeted for this. And I know that we are not collecting tax on Airbnbs and other places there's some that are not even breakfast, they're just rooms.
I'm projecting that we know there's sites out there that should be, that are engaging in activities should be paying, and through this service, that they would be seeking them out, they would be essentially getting them into line legally, that we would be receiving funds. That's where, those numbers are just estimates looking into online portals. The alternative to that is the city hiring additional staff to do it. I don't think there's enough of that online, or that type of lodging going on to justify additional city staff.
Do you think there's enough of that lodging going on to justify doing this?
I do, because if anything they bring in, they're getting paid a percentage up. If they bring zero in, all they're getting is the $8 filing fee from the ones that are already filed.
And if it doesn't pay for itself in the first year, if we don't see that it doesn't, then we can easily cancel it.
Exactly. If we're sitting here 6 months to 12 months from now, and there's nothing new coming in, we cancel it and try something else.
Will we get a monthly update or a quarterly update on this? How will we know a year from now before this renews?
We could get either monthly or quarterly reports. My recommendation would be that these be presented to council on a quarterly basis, because we could either have those entities file, as I mentioned, it'd be through the portal, monthly or quarterly. I think for the limited number that we have, quarterly is probably an easier way to do it. If council's preference, I'm happy to go one way or the other. That $8 fee is for filing, so a monthly fee versus a quarterly fee, one is 3 times more than the other on the entity. It's a relatively small amount. Some of these may only be doing a couple transactions. But either way, we will be getting information, we'll be reporting to council of the collections.
Have we had any neighboring cities do something similar?
Yeah,
It has results?
that's how,
Okay.
yeah, a couple of the cities, there's some, I don't remember all the names, that's sort of cool off that I talked to. For instance, we've been relying on them to supply it to us. City of Conroe, the reason they went to this firm was because of the Airbnb and the similar type, VRBO, and through those night rentals. They went through this firm to bring those into the city, and they were quite satisfied. So they attacked, albeit on a much larger scale, but they tackled the same problem we were looking at with the sewage, and they were satisfied.
And to be clear, this came upon because Mr. Jacobs had proposed doing 14 or 12 cottages that were mentioned earlier, and he was going to advertise those on Airbnb. And how are we going to make sure that we get and there's other Airbnbs that we're not seeing the taxes received. So again, kind of getting ahead of this wave of Airbnb and new way of staying since we don't have a hotel.
Right, and the fee number you mentioned earlier that we put in our budget, that's just a guess from trying to think, some searches on online portals, not knowing what they're really renting, the sites that are out there, just making some guesses as to what could bring in. We know there's activity out there that's not being remitted to us, so we're going to have to do something to get it sent to us.
Well, a few folks I've spoken with that we know, like Tom, for example, he said no one's against paying taxes once they're discovered, I guess, if you might say. Obviously it's the customer that's going to pay for it, not them anyway, but, So I think you're right, there's a lot more out here that we don't know about.
Right, when you go to a hotel, for instance, you expect there to be a hotel tax wherever you go.
Yeah.
And remind me again what the limitations are on utilizing, like once this money comes in, because right now it's sitting in an account, we're not touching it, now we're just going to go get more. So I don't want to just put it in an account and not touch it. What are our limitations on using it?
It's our hot taxes.
Well, it's probably a better Alan question than for me, but generally speaking, related to tourism type activities or advertising.
So our sidewalks.
Potentially, yeah, because I think Bastrop was able to add sidewalks because of it.
Well, if they're related to, tourism or promoting tourism, so certainly in places like parks, which they could, help facilitate visitors to use. But the statute pretty clearly defines, a laundry list of about 8 or 10 different things that qualify.
In the council, we get to choose off that list, right? It's not going to.
That's right.
Yeah.
They're loosely laid out, so lots of things could fall under.
Yeah, they're broad categories.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
Anything from us on this?
Motion to approve.
I'll make a motion, we approve item number 4, professional service agreement with Azavar.
Second?
It has been moved and seconded that we approve the professional services agreement with Azavar. This motion is debatable, amendable, and requires majority vote. It is open for discussion.
One more question, I'm sorry. Did we bid this out with anybody else, or no? This is just who Conroe used, so we just bid with them?
As I said, I talked to a couple other of the cities. This is the only company name that I got, so this is the only one I spoke with. This is the only reference. It's only because it's the only positive reference I got. I did not know another company that even did this.
Because this is still a new frontier. I mean, we talked about the fact that this is a problem for cities, and it's kind of a cutting edge deal.
Yes, and for us, this is a new frontier to try to tackle. And I didn't know where else to go to once I talked to the others who do the same work I do for other cities.
So a year down the road, are we going to bid this if we then at that point have other people knocking on our doors, or we're going to stick with them because we like it?
Well, there's something.
Assuming we like it.
It's something we could choose to do that. If we could be so wildly successful with them, why would we want to change? But if it's, but if it's something that's anything beyond that, by all means, it gives us a year to find out more who else the players in the field, while at the same time getting our foot in the door and collecting those fees.
And I suspect as the market, continues to grow, as the use continues to grow, you'll have more players in the field.
Do the VRBOs they don't have to be permitted through the city, do they? Do you know, Richard? No?
I don't believe so.
No.
I don't think so.
And that may be something that you want to consider.
For that reason.
Exactly. The whole subject of Airbnbs, VRBOs, it is the subject of
It's the next food truck.
A lot of discussion goes on about it, and the different cities, treat it different ways. And there are lawsuits about whether or not they can be regulated by cities.
Okay.
Actually, last thing I didn't look, I'm sorry. If we did decide not to continue on, how much notice do we have to give them?
30 days.
30 days?
30 days.
Are we legally bound to that as a city, though? I thought we weren't legally bound to expiration dates like that.
If it's in the contract.
That's not what.
It's in the contract.
Contract, they only deal with cities.
Yeah.
I don't know if they said
I
that.
thought there was no, they didn't say that. I thought there was a rule that cities weren't necessarily contractually bound to specific days of notice, so. But 30 is what's written.
Question?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
All those in favor of accepting item number 4, to approve a professional services agreement with Azavar, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will approve professional services agreement with Azavar. Item number 5 on your agenda, consideration and possible action on nominations for Montgomery County Appraisal District Board, MCAD, of Directors election for the 2022, 22, and 2023 term.
All those twos are not, aren't they? Each jurisdiction that participates with the appraisal district, they're entitled to vote in the election of Montgomery County Appraisal District's Board of Directors. So each entity is entitled to nominate candidates for each of the 5 positions to be filed. The attached pages include correspondence from MCAD, including qualifications to be an appraisal director. The city of Montgomery has 5 votes out in the election out of 5,000 votes in total. We must mail in the nomination form on or about their language October 15th. So this item could be deferred until the October 12th city council meeting. Council would like some time to think about any names that might like to put into nomination.
I think we definitely need representation on this side because our appraisals are out of control. Some appraisals have jumped 700%, and we currently don't have a voice over there. So I definitely think that if anybody out there would like to be part of it, let's go ahead and throw your name in the hat because we definitely need, or anybody up here, we need to be heard. Have a seat at the table at least.
And as I said, council would like some time to think about that and come up with names and come back here on October 12th. Perfectly happy to defer this until then. And,
Are we posting this publicly, or do we have an app?
They probably are, I bet, right? They're posting it? Do they have to?
Are we posting it for these 5 positions?
we have not done anything because I want to talk to council about it and before we post anything. In the past, the city has not put anything out there for the public other than considering it in the council meeting. MCAD's responsibility is to circulate this not amongst the general public, but amongst the participating entities. And the last page on this item, page 48 of the packet, has a list of the participating entities as well as their proportional votes.
And it's a 2-step process. The participating entities nominate somebody, and then different cities can nominate different people, and then following that nomination period, those nominees will be circulated, and the cities get to vote from that list of nominees.
So yeah, we could probably give us a couple weeks to figure out some names, right?
Wait,
Bring
but
that
just so I
back?
clarify, you want us to get you 5 names, just,
Only have 5 names. The city of Montgomery has 5 openings.
and if we get more than that, then vote at the
Yeah.
next, 2 weeks from now on the 5 that we want to send in? Is that what I'm hearing, Alex?
No.
Well, they'll be sent to,
That's not what I'm saying.
Oh, I totally misunderstood that.
So the process under state law is that the participating entities get to nominate people.
we are an entity that's participating, right?
Right. And then MCAT will circulate that list of nominees amongst the participating entities, and then there's a vote.
Amongst those 4,200 candidates.
Gotcha.
Right.
They pick however many.
We're gonna put 5 in the pot, and then all of us are gonna look at it, and then,
So sometime after October 15th, before the end of the year, we will get the list of nominees back from MCAT for the city to decide from those names how it will apply its votes.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying. I totally did not hear that correct at all the first time.
it's okay.
So we don't need to take an action on that, or do we need to?
We do not need to take action tonight. We can do October 12th. If
Okay.
council wants to give us any direction for staff, like, would you like us to put something out to the public?
Well, this is on the Facebook page, yeah.
I make a motion that we postpone this to October the 12th and make a public posting on our website to the public for applications.
That needs a motion?
Well, postponement too, but
All right, second.
then it's a specific directive.
It has been moved and seconded to postpone
Yeah.
this item till October 12th and publicly post it for, for applications, or publicly post that we are accepting applications. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires a majority vote. It's open for discussion.
Can I ask who did the second?
I make Kevin.
Kevin, thank you.
All those in favor of postponing this item until October 12th so that we may post it publicly for, and receive applications, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will postpone this item until October 12th so that we may publicly post for applications.
Richard, how do we,
And when we do that, we'll also post the list of the page with the qualifications so that people can know whether or not they may or may not be qualified.
where we can post this to, Richard? Are we gonna post this on the city website or Facebook or?
We'll post it to the city website and also post a message on our electronic announcement board referencing it, and then if people call, we can direct them to that portion of the webpage. But I think people will see that sign more than our webpage. The trouble is you can only fit so much message on the sign.
And it's really not an application. It looks like they just need to send us their biography. Yeah. Well,
Tell us they're interested. There you go.
yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Item number 6, consideration of possible action on procedural rules for Montgomery City Council meetings.
The concept of having a defined set of procedures has been discussed recently. Procedural rules were previously considered by City Council in 2009, but were not adopted. I provided a copy of those to City Council on September 14th for review. The city attorney has proposed an updated version that was attached to this item, as a starting point for council's consideration. So you have that copy that is labeled draft.
So, my question I have about this is how much of the original that we were given a couple weeks ago, Alan, is that what you took and then worked off of to come up with this?
We did, based on, what we've seen other cities do, we developed that.
Okay.
We probably made it quite a bit more extensive.
It's a bit extensive. It's got more in it. It's got
It's an understatement.
It's got a lot in there. Yeah. Well, also one of the things that we kind of talked about is we know there is importance of, having structure, because there's freedom in structure, right? If you know what you can and cannot do and who's running meetings, and we need to have those rules in place. I think there are a couple of concerns that we were talking about as far as the extensive list that we came up with. So.
if the consensus of council is to have a more concise version of rules, then, we can do that as well. Different cities do it different ways, but we found that it is generally good to have some procedural rules that, everybody knows what the rules of the game are. Not just for council, but for the public to know what rules council follows in its procedures and for council meetings, just to help things kind of work a little smoother.
I think this maybe, because it's so lengthy, it probably covers things that we haven't thought of.
I have more than a page of questions on this. So I would like to counter this with a proposal that we have some kind of a workshop, or that I can exchange emails with Richard in regards to my questions, because I feel like if I start asking them here, we're going to draw this meeting out way longer than it needs to be, and we still have all the departmental reports.
Well, what I propose there is, how about we take 2 weeks for us to field questions from all of council, get you those answers, and what we can do is we can take all the questions regardless of which council member has to provide all those answers back to all of council. If in 2 weeks at the next meeting, between those questions and comments back up with the attorney, we get council to a place that's comfortable with either, maybe not a final copy, but more direction on it, then we're good. If we can't get to that point, then we can decide then to have a workshop. Would that be acceptable?
That would be very acceptable.
Just drinking from a fire hose right now. We agree we need to have some sort of structure. We need that. This is a lot.
Like I put in the agenda report, I figured this is a good starting point for the conversation.
Yes.
I think it's good if that conversation is a conversation, and if we're able to get the consensus, not just the consensus, but from all council members to input, so we can get the right thought.
So then I'll make a motion that we postpone this to the October 12th meeting, with the understanding that the entire council has that timeline to send questions directly to you to define this a little better.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's so wordy.
No, you're fine.
And you have to repeat that.
No.
Second that.
It has been moved and seconded that we postpone this item until the October 12th meeting, which will allow council to provide questions, and then all answers will be responded back from city staff to us by this time. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. It is open for discussion. All those in favor of postponing this item till October 12th, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will postpone this item till October 12th meeting. Item number 7, consideration of possible action regarding authorization of the city engineer to begin design of the 2022 sanitary sewer cleaning and televising Phase 1 project.
The attached engineering memo has the details of the project. The city engineers and public works director are here tonight with the engineer prepared.
So just as a reminder, this is what we were discussing at the council workshops, was phase 1 cleaning and televising. So if you look at page 65 of your packets, you'll see a copy of the exhibit that breaks down kind of the phasing plan that was put together. So what was done back in 2017 was speeded up by the GLO project, and those in that grant, the one is in blue, which is most of the older area of the city, so part of downtown, the main line that runs from 105 up to the old sewer plant, and a couple other small sections would get done in this year, and then the following year is the rest of what you see in pink. We leave out the stuff that's brand new, just because it's more recent in the ground.
Yeah.
And then also just to know, all the manholes throughout the city, as part of your new operator contract, get inspected annually. So where all this would go together is it would get publicly bid based on the size, so it's about 34,000 feet of pipe that'll get inspected. Will they review and come back with a recommendation for repairs, cost estimate, and exhibits, and include that with manholes, so then we can look at budget and what's available to prioritize the repairs going forward.
So the question I had is, it's probably in here, when's the last time these pipes were looked at?
So bits and pieces, so, and to answer that, since I've been involved with the city, the inspection that was done, what you see in orange, which is along 149, essentially all the way down the city, and then Simonton and Lawson Street. Prior to that, I don't have a good record of when the last.
Never. How about never?
Oh, no, it's been done.
Has it done? Okay.
Yeah, it's been done before.
Right.
Like within a decade, do you think, or 15 years, or recently?
Well, he says the last time was 2017, so I know that it was before then.
Right.
Gotcha, okay.
It hasn't been in the last, since we've been on the city, 2014, it hasn't been in that 70.
Is there a typical time frame or a typical schedule that you do this across the city or across areas? This phase is year one, this phase are odd years get these and even years get this. How do y'all determine?
So we go based on pipe age and criticality. So, if pipe fails, if it's, a 6-inch line that serves one house, obviously it doesn't have the same effect for the 18-inch line that serves the entire city. So looking at those, as far as the life, that 20-year period, especially when we're starting to get into the newer PVC pipe, a lot of your pipe is clay. So our recommendation is when we come back with repairs, your ultimate repair line is to do a liner or a replacement of the pipe. So which will be a structural repair, just seal it and give it a new structural pipe inside without having to dig. Once that's done, that liner has a, I can't remember the manufacturer's recommendation, but 50+ year life. So we don't need to go back and continue to look at that line every 10 years because that liner should be hold up. Still a good idea, but less frequently than the stuff that gets, that hasn't been repaired or fully rehabilitated yet. That answers.
Are any of these pipes already kind of part of our plan, your long-term plan to be replaced anyway?
The one, no. The one that might be replaced and upsized would be the one that runs from 105 to the old sewer plant for Station 2. That has the potential to be upsized in the future, and that really just depends on how we decide flows in or out in the sewer plant plan for the city. Still a good idea to look and get any immediate repairs done. And if we know we're not going to spend money on the liner, go and get any structural deficiencies at single points just to get us further down the road until we're time to upsize those lines.
It's worth mentioning too that this is the side of the line that connects to Redbird Meadows.
Right.
And so with that projection coming in on growth, if we don't get ahead of it and start checking these lines, we're going to go digging and we're going to have to check them backwards anyway. So
That's why I was asking, if we're going to spend $135,000 to inspect these, what would be the difference in go ahead and just getting rid of these clay lines now with the good stuff?
So there's what you still have to
millions of dollars, millions of dollars.
These may have another 2 years shelf life. What's the shelf life of these remaining that we're looking at, you think?
As in, we don't do anything to that?
We're going to look at them, and they're going to be in great shape. And then how long, yeah.
So when I need to go back and look at my notes. So when we did the analysis for the camera track, we looked at the amount of flow going through here and it can handle the camera. But that's not including, Hills and Time Creek Section 5, that's another 70 homes. And everything else that's coming on this side of the city, making its way. And so as we're doing the Hills and Time Creek Section 5 feasibility, which we'll present at the 2nd October meeting, that will be re-looked at.
This is good and also preventative for the future.
Right. So yes, could that line be upsized in the future? Yeah, that is 100% possible. However, without a definitive timeline, I would feel more comfortable looking at it, making any significant repairs now, and then it has to be upsized. We're not worried about something failing between now and
And the estimate of cost is just based upon your estimate of what you'd get back on bids, because WG is not doing it, you're sending it out for bid.
That's correct. So based on this size, we're required to publicly bid it. So it'll be advertised on paper, it'll be advertised online, and we'll publicly open bids for the project and then bring it to you to award the contract.
And estimated start?
So it would be...
I mean, I saw 211 days, but...
Right. And possibly bidding in December. Then with the holidays, things slow down the contract, so I would expect to start construction in February. 45 days to get that complete, and then the review time to go through all the videos and put together recommendations. So that would put us, closer to,
The end of 20.
Springtime next
spring,
year.
April 2020.
So all we're approving, or we're just authorizing you to get started at looking at different companies.
Correct. So, the additional steps that this will come in front of council, so once it's bid, it'll come back, you have to award the bid, sign the contract, that gets done, or is authorized the contract for the construction. And then after the work is complete, we'll come back and present either as a separate item or as part of our engineering report, the results with the exhibits and the cost estimate of how we address all this now. And so what we did in the budget for this year was we had a amount set aside for repairs, and amount set aside for this phase one of inspection. So we do the immediate repairs. There's likely going to be some repairs that carry over to next year, and we'll set that budget, inspect the next phase, and then continue on the following until we make our way through the system. Get the repairs.
It's like you read my mind. My next question was, is this in the budget? Like, did you put this in the budget? Perfect.
It's there.
I do have a question. Mr., what part of town were those snakes found? Is it in your neighborhood or where?
Yeah,
Your neighborhood?
two snakes were the Williams' house on Jenny Lane, and the other snake was at the Anthony's house on Jenny Lane.
Okay, so, okay, thank you. Just curious.
The one day I'm glad I don't have city sewer. I'd have burned the whole house down.
That would not have been a nice surprise.
I make a motion that we approve WGE to start bidding this.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve WGA to bid this. This motion's debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. It's open for discussion.
I totally did say E. I apologize. It's WGA. I'm sorry, Chris.
All those in favor of allowing WGA to begin this bid process, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will approve WGA to begin the bid process for this. Consideration, number 8, consideration and possible action regarding early payoff of the city's loan balance with the Montgomery Economic Development Corporation, MEDC.
The city has a total principal remaining of $188,684.21 as of September 30th, remaining on the loan from the MEDC, for which those funds were used to purchase the land at 777 Clever Street. My recommendation is City Council give consideration to paying off that land before the end of September versus the last payment would be by the end of December 31 of this year, which would save $471.92 in interest. Yeah. So I want to get the sense of council, would you rather make those payments out, or would you rather save almost $500 in interest?
So my question for you is, this is already in the budget for 2021-22, correct? The payments of this loan?
Yes.
So what happens to that money in the budget? Does it roll to capital infrastructure?
It becomes assignable by City Council. So, meaning that council could provide direction for those funds, at a later date.
That was like 60-something thousand, wasn't it?
188,000.
Per month, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah,
60
about that
something.
per month. The total principal, so basically, it frees up 180. Let's just say right at 189,000.
So going forward for the next,
Yeah, so if you're not making those payments for the next fiscal year, use the money you have this year, the surplus. That means that money is just not spent next year, which means council can assign it to other uses.
which 63,000 a month times a full year is
I just
pretty
don't
sizable.
I don't understand why it doesn't go straight.
It's only 3 months left on the
Oh,
bill.
okay.
It's 188,000. I just don't understand why it doesn't go to capital infrastructure based upon it's an overage now. Like, we're going to zero the slush fund for this year but so that we don't have to send it to capital infrastructure, and I have a problem with that. I'd rather just leave it there and let it pay out.
Well, that's why I wanted to present this. I mean, the slush fund's an awful books account, so we don't have a slush fund. What we have is a surplus that because we have revenue above projections.
Right.
So, I'm perfectly fine either way. I want to give council the action because we're at the end of the fiscal year. It's certainly perfectly fine to just leave it there and make those payments out. $471, that's not a huge amount of savings. The interest rate is low, so I could have gone either way on that.
I guess like how many times this is one item, but what if something's like we don't, next fiscal, because we're going to be there in 3 days. We decide that we no longer need that police car, and now Chief Solomon's got an extra $40,000 in his budget that we aren't using on police cars. That no longer rolls back into capital infrastructure like what I originally thought we voted on 2 weeks ago. Now it just rolls into general police funds that he can spend on whatever he wants.
Well, we gave him the direction to get those cars, he has to do it. It's not
What council did, with the budget was, it moved funds around and put that into capital infrastructure for water and sewer. And that's what we did as part of what I'll report on in my manager's report. At the end of the last fiscal year, council also took action to assign, it had and we'll do the same this year. There's a year-end action that our auditing firm has recommended pass, and it redirected funds towards capital improvement purposes. I would expect to do that again this year, and so what funds are remaining at the end of this year, we can do it with those funds as well. It's a matter of timing. I'm a big believer in setting aside money for those capital projects because I would prefer to pay for them in the cash we have on hand rather than borrowing money and saddle the city's residents in the future with I'd rather have as little debt as possible, for that time and to put off that debt as long as possible.
Amen. And we are just blessed with additional funds that we did not have budgeted.
But if council would rather you just leave it as it is, perfectly fine with that.
So how much additional funds are we rolling over that we don't have allocated somewhere in the next 3 days? Do you know what that number is?
3 months, you mean?
No, the city budget rolls on October 1.
October 1?
It'll really be next month's report that we know that because there's always the activity, because we carry on an accrual basis.
Yeah.
We have activity that goes past the end of the fiscal year. That number is going to be, probably in excess of $200,000. We can take that money and, when we do a year-end budget amendment, and assign that figure, whatever it is, to the same capital infrastructure. You end up seeing, we're talking about the same money, it's a matter of time.
Right. But I don't even want to waste the $471.92. Like, that's $471.92 that could be in capital infrastructure, in my opinion. So I will make a motion that we pay this principal balance with the understanding that the 3 months allocated that we would be paying in 2021-22 budget go to capital infrastructure planning, to savings. So that money that would be budgeted in the next fiscal year gets moved to capital infrastructure savings for the future.
Can we do that now, or does it have to be an amendment at the end?
It's MEDC money, so.
I don't think we can actually make the change to that degree because you're asking for a budget amendment, but we can make this action now and at the next meeting bring you the budget amendment that does what you're asking for. Is that
Right. So to move those funds in the next fiscal year to capital projects, that's a budget amendment to your next
Already
fiscal
accepted
year's, budget, which isn't this agenda item.
Right.
But you can make approval of this agenda item contingent upon approval of a budget amendment for next fiscal year.
I got you.
But it will have to be on the agenda again.
Next week on the 12th.
But we'll bring that for you that way. And then, does that accomplish the goals you're looking for?
Yes, I just want to make sure it doesn't get spent somewhere else or reallocated because we voted to approve something else. So
One thing about city councils is they can always redirect funds, but I think that's the importance of putting good labels on them to minimize that happening.
okay, so how do I need to word this then, Alan?
Just approve, don't you just approve paying it now, and then saying on the October 12th or October 8th, whatever that next meeting is.
As presented, contingent on.
Yeah, contingent on, or at that time discuss what to do with those funds, where to put them, or amendment, or whatever that word to direct them, or the amendment, yeah.
So I'll make a motion that we approve this agenda item as presented with the understanding that on October 12th, we will also be presented with a budget amendment to reallocate these funds.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we as Julie said, this motion is being amendable, requires majority vote. It's open for discussion. All those in favor, as presented, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries. Item number 9 on your agenda, consideration of possible action regarding appointment of Planning and Zoning Commission positions expiring on October 1st, 2021.
Okay, I've attached sections 98, 50, and 51 related to the appointment of planning and zoning commissioners. All 3 members with expiring terms, Jeffrey Waddell, Brittany Goodsmith, and Allison Clark, have indicated their interest and willingness to serve another term. Staff believes that each of them to be valuable members of the commission and have demonstrated the interest in planning and zoning, the knowledge of the community, and a sense of civic pride, and the ability to maintain impartial judgment in matters related to the commission, which is required by ordinance. Additionally, their dedication to preparing for and attending meetings is evident to all who attend, and the staff appreciates the active and informed members serving on the commission. The Planning and Zoning Commission saw the departure of a few long-serving members over the past several years that left a gap in the institutional knowledge of the commission. Through the efforts to include formal training session and discussing background issues related to the individual agenda items, along with the independent research by members of the commission, the current Planning and Zoning Commission seems well placed to serve the city as it works to maintain the historic identity of this growing development in the area. With that, staff recommendation is for City Council to consider the reappointment of those 3 members for another 2 years. In addition, David McCorkadale is the Director of Planning and Development who works more closely with Planning and Zoning. Is here if you have questions.
Can you remind me again who's at position 2 and 4?
Yes, 2 and 4. Bill Simpson was recently reappointed to position 2. Position 4 is held by Marion Walker, who lives down the street here.
Okay. And did we post these positions for?
Typically, when there's a vacancy, they'll post them out. Again, I don't, mean to sound like I'm against, posting, but it is an incredible amount of labor that goes into training a commission in what planning is, what zoning is, how you do it. And so it's really nice to have a well-informed, up-to-speed commission to work with and really make progress. Like I say, easily a third of your meeting is just why we're talking about this item. We've got,
As you can sense, the answer to your question is actually no. In the past, City Council has just reappointed members. It's also posted usually when there's been either more vacancies than we have people, or when there's been a rush, people who have indicated their interest to serve. While these 3 are all indicated their interest to continue to serve, we have not had others approach us to say when that comes over, I would like to serve. So it was an easy way to present the council, to reappoint these 3.
So, I understand, for sure. It would be nice though for all these positions, since they are voluntary for the city. I would love to see all these things get posted, just in case there are other people that are interested. And they're not going to approach you because they don't know to. You don't know what you don't know, right? There may be some people that have been dying to get on P&Z. That's their lifelong career. I don't know. And we never say anything, and the same people get reappointed. I'd rather somehow see people have an opportunity, at least.
I think the attendance at the meetings may give us some indication of that.
I was trying to giggle under my breath. Thanks, Dave.
I'm just saying. Not that I disagree with any of you.
Do you know how long each one of these places have served for? Like how? I mean, I know Jeff's been there a while.
Jeff's been there for probably my guess is probably 6 years or so. Both the other 2, both Brittany and Allison, this was their first term.
Okay.
I think we've got a good group there, because there's some knowledge of why and what, and then there's new ideas.
Right, and certainly all of the members also have their own, niche. Take Allison, for instance. She comes from an insurance world. Brittany comes from a real estate and development world. So it's nice to have, kind of, again, a broad perspective of folks, looking at it and not, everyone's just in the same little niche.
Okay,
So this,
sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I'm just gonna make a motion to reappoint, Jeff Waddell to position 1, Brittany Gutzman, place 3, and Allison Clark to place 5.
A second.
It has been moved and seconded that we reappoint Jeffrey Waddell, place 1, Brittany Goodsman, place 3, and Allison Clark, place 5. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. It's open for discussion. All those in favor of appointing to Planning and Zoning Jeffrey Waddell, place 1, Brittany Goodsman, place 3, and Allison Clark, place 5, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Nay.
The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept the Planning and Zoning Commissioner's appointment of Jeffrey Waddell, place 1, Brittany Goodsman, place 3, and Allison Clark, place 5.
And that was Julie Davis' name?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next up on your agenda is the departmental reports. Item number 10, City Administrator's Report for August 2021.
Thank you this evening. Give you some summary items out of my report. We completed and posted the budget, including the amendment made by City Council at the last meeting. And that, again, redirected funds for future water and sewer capacity construction chapter projects item. We had coordination communication on the leak of Sewer Crest Mobile Home Park. They responded quickly and they took care of the leak that was on their line. I'd like to specifically note that was brought to my attention by Julie Davis. And they, Blair Golden from the Park Management specifically wanted me to make thank you. She said just thank the person who told you that. Because it saved them a lot of money. It was on their line, not a customer's line within the park. And so the customer apparently, it looked like it was coming out of one trailer. They did not report it because it was not affecting their service, and it was someone who's in a difficult position. So it was just washing onto through the yard, onto the street. I know it was visible to you how we drive there, but again, Blair Golden wanted me to relay the thanks for.
Well, they were super nice to that resident too. Like they came and walked him out, and he's a disabled veteran. He's super nice, and like I stopped and talked to him, and he didn't even know it was leaking, and it was a lot of water.
Yeah, and it was filling the yard and just sheeting across. So.
Yeah.
So we've got our inspector right here. Cancel 7.
No.
But that's how a lot of things, the city employees get a lot of places, they can't be everywhere.
Yeah.
It helps to get the eyes and ears of those who are driving around and see something. So sometimes we'll hear an item reported 10 times. Sometimes someone will say, I've seen this going on for 3 days, and you probably already heard it, and we haven't heard it yet. Because we might be 4.5 square miles, but there's a lot of roadway at 4.5 square miles. So.
And like I told you, I don't have city water, so when I saw it going out in the street, I was like, precious water, you know?
I get very possessive over water too, because it's a resource that the city doesn't just, it pays more money into the effort than people understand. We've got to pump the water from deep underground, we have to disinfect it, we have to pressurize it, we have to deliver it. It's an important consideration. But she wanted me to relay the thanks, so it was very appreciated. We have our auditor advertising out, and we expect to be able to have that to City Council at the November 9th meeting for a decision.
Richard, just to clarify, will that be choices or just a recommendation?
Well, it depends on how many I get in. I'm expecting and anticipating that I'll supply the council with 3 choices from which to make a decision.
If that's not going to be the case, let us know in advance so we're not surprised. I guess.
I should be able to certainly have more information by the second meeting in October, so I'll be able to give you that.
Okay.
He'll be done from vacation then too,
Right.
so.
Your suntan will be on.
26th.
Thank you. It's the 26th meeting. For the food truck local vendor workshop, it's set for 6 p.m. on Thursday. The following schedule, we expect to have a summary report to council for the October 12th meeting and a revised draft ordinance prior to the October 26th meeting. We're still taking comments in writing for the food truck workshop. We expect to send those out to council Wednesday afternoon. If we're continuing to take written comments, if people want to provide them through Wednesday morning. Any comments received after Wednesday morning, but before the workshop, we'll supply to council in writing at your desk. We have to have a cutoff at some point, so we'll send the bulk of them out by email that we've already received and received up to us. And we can determine at the workshop how much longer we'll accept written comments prior to having the summary report.
Can you clarify that for me, Rick, on the workshop? Can I make sure, the workshop we had earlier, I think we had residents that were expecting to be able to talk with the developer and stuff, which that wasn't what the case was. The workshop on Thursday, is it just we're taking emails and we're going to read their emails? Are we citizens be able to talk and ask questions and suggest, or what is Thursday? Just so
Well, council will be provided with the written comments. Typically, written comments like that are provided to council in writing. There's usually a large volume. Those aren't expected to be read out in the meeting.
Right.
Because they are written comments to the subject matter. And I don't know how thick that will be in terms of pages.
Yeah.
I've seen it on the computer. There is a public comment portion at the first part of the workshop, and then after that public comment is over, and there is a portion for just the council to work through the written, what council has to discuss on that, the written comments that you had, the public comment that was made before, and that's in the council discussion. You'll have myself, city attorney representative, our development director, therefore questions related to those as well.
I just want to make sure it's clear how it's going to work so everyone knows.
It's not like a forum, it's just a workshop, correct?
Yeah, but it's a workshop from council to discuss among yourselves kind of the direction that you want, not a back and forth with the audience.
Yeah, so, after that public comment portion, then it's council only discussion at that point.
Okay.
Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
I just want to make sure it was clear so everyone knew exactly.
I want to make sure you had the information before I
Perfect.
And it was just mentioned a bit ago, my vacation is scheduled October 15th and 25th. I will miss you all greatly, but I won't miss a council meeting because I sandwiched it in between those. And that's what I have for my summary. If you have any questions, we have to take those, and we can pass that on to the water report.
Mike Montgomery, item number 11, Public Works Report for August 2021.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As usual, I'll just take some highlights. We repaired a leaking service line on Prairie Street and completed 7 work orders for water leaks. We adjusted the entry gate at lift station 13, removed a dead tree from the right-of-way at Houston Street, or on Houston Street, completed 2 work orders for streets and right-of-way ditch drainage issues, repaired LED wall pack lights on the community center and the city hall, replaced an AC unit at water plant 3, replaced an irrigation node for the community center rose bushes, replaced the solar sink on the Memory Park irrigation system. Fernland Docents reported 462 visitors for the month and provided 54 tours. I attended a meeting with Energy at City Hall. Also attended a meeting with an Eagle Scout project presenter at Memory Park. And one thing I would like to point out is we are losing employee Jack Brown. This Friday is his last day. He is going to pursue full-time school. He's going after a bachelor's degree in computer science, and we want to wish him well. He's been a great employee for 3 years, and hate to lose him, but wish him well. Yep.
Any questions? Is there anything, I don't know if this even falls underneath your jurisdiction here, but like the community center, power washing, painting, cleaning, could you make it look a little better?
Yeah, it does. I need to get a fresh quote on painting. We looked at the quoting, I think it was right about when COVID hit, and we put that on hold.
Well, even that and the wall in front where we replaced where that car went through it, can we pressure wash the rest of it, make it match, or make that one section dirtier so it matches the rest? One of the two? You know what I mean?
We have to be real careful with pressure washing on that wall. It will blow the grout out of it.
But they do make a grout stain, so it may not be that difficult to make it gray instead of
Yeah, it may
white.
make it easier to make it look dirty.
That's what I'm saying. I'll go out there and make it muddier if I
Yeah, let me check on that. I'll see.
Yeah, I thought about that wall for so long, so.
Yeah. In some spots it's brittle.
But if we could look at the community center, like you said, fresh coat of paint or something, it needs it.
Okay, we'll have a fresh budget here in a couple of days.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah.
How are the lights on MLK? I did receive the email that they had hung them, and everything is good. I've not heard anything and checked them out, so I just wanted to make sure you did, communication would go to you, and I didn't see it.
Yeah, so they also installed the one in the curb that
Good.
we've been waiting for quite a
Outstanding.
while. Yeah.
Good.
Yep.
Outstanding. Okay.
That one actually helped quite a bit, curb in the dark. Because they had to put it in there, so we got that.
All right.
And I know you mentioned Eagle Scout project. Is there a way to even discuss like possibly some kind of the idea, like tying the skate park idea with an Eagle Scout project, or you think that's probably way outside of
I think that's way outside.
engineering?
Yeah. Maybe we could get one. Yeah.
Just a rail down a pond, you know. There's they go and skate at the Big Sombrero has that back driveway and so I've constantly seen skateboarders ride the rail all the way down the driveway. I know.
The skate park in Congress is very nice.
Yeah.
It's quite a big project.
There's a 10-acre one at Greens Point. I think I had told you that. And it was the largest at the time, and I've heard it's highly successful. It's good.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Item number 12, police report for August 2021. Chief Solomon.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Do you have a report? Do you have any questions?
Short and sweet.
I got a question.
I do too.
Yes, sir.
You know, you and I talked before about sometimes that light on Emma's Way, especially in school hours where it's doing it again. It gets hung up there so long you can't go left because everything's froze, but it's in school hours, so it has something to do with just those school hours. It's not letting go of its time.
It may be the time from the school. What we'll do is we'll have Tech Stock take another look at that light. There's certain lights, certain times of day, they go on different times.
Okay.
We'll have to take another look.
On the good side, the traffic on Emma's Way into the subdivision is good. There's none. There's nobody parking over there anymore, and I appreciate that.
I will say that light actually doesn't, it recognizes my truck, but won't recognize my Jeep. I don't want it. So you see
It has a mind of its own, no doubt.
I will address your question earlier about the insurance and the city council in that 50%. The officers we got, that insurance was really, really high. They took everything down to about half. And so whenever that day comes around that we're registering for that, I'm sure there'll be more sign-on than it was.
3 days, Chief, 3 days. Hey, my other question for you was the VIPs. Can you give us more clarification? The Volunteer and Police Services program that looks like is this in conjunction to the stuff that we've heard about the 2 other programs, and then you talked about starting the volunteer?
Yeah, the volunteer policing program comes out of the CPA class. We've got 6 of the people that were in that class that want to go through that training. They would have had that completed last month, but our training officer that was heading that got sick, and the other instructors did not have, they were not ready with all the paperwork to send us some training. He got back yesterday. I asked him to get started today. So
I was impressed with all the training that you got done last month. 6
a lot of training.
That's great.
For an agency this size, it's a lot of training.
That is a lot of training.
I see we had 8 DWIs. When was the cutoff for this report? We had 8 DWIs?
This is August.
That's normal.
For the month.
That's about normal for the officers that we've got working night shift. And 2 of those officers are really BWI. And certified. They've been to classes. One of them is actually an instructor. And so, they're getting a lot of the DWI. This county is getting a lot of DWIs. It's getting to be with Harris County when it comes to DWI and those DWIs cause accidents and deaths. Montgomery County is starting to rise, so we're trying to keep that down.
How was Wine Fest, by the way? Not that it's not related, but
Big part?
it was a Wine Fest last weekend. Did we see any spike or anything with that? Or?
Wine Fest was really good. It went real peaceful. I don't think the crowd was as big as it was in 19, but that may be due to just people just now starting to come back out.
Yeah.
But it was a really good crowd. We didn't make any arrests. I was there for most of the time. It was pretty good.
Did our new radios come in handy?
Big part.
Did our new radios come in handy?
Oh, absolutely. The event radio came in real handy.
Yeah.
We gave those event radios to the people through part of that event, they were able to keep contact with us, and we were able to keep contact with them. Matter of fact, I think the lady that was over had COVID, so she was in a building somewhere locked away, we were able to talk to her. So.
I'm just curious as if you saw some, that they paid off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Well, they're paying off.
Paying off, yes. Of course. Okay.
Awesome.
Cool, thank you, Chief.
All right, thank you, Chief. Number 13, court report for August 2021. Ms. Kimberly Duckett.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. For August 2021, the collections for citations were 126, and the revenue was $34,639.40 for the month of August 2021. Are there any questions in the report?
It looks like our revenue, if you compare our revenue staying in the 30s average, in 2020, it was in the 20s. What do you think, why is there such a significant jump in average? Do you think, I know partially was people were using their stimulus checks to pay for their warrants, but are we going through a lot more warrants now, or being able to collect on those?
Well, 2020 was our year of unfortunate COVID, and people have been starting to pay more. We try to find ways to collect revenue. It could be actually in dollar amount or with doing community service, things like that. So it's different avenues that we're trying to do to collect money. It's not just an actual revenue.
But we were less than half on our citations too for 2020, so.
Yes.
So I was going to ask you, when you go back to like 2018, we had a lot of months, at 55,000, 52,000, 51,000. So really, our collections are going down it looks like it's gone down quite a bit in the last 3 years, right?
Well, it's kind of fluctuated amongst the years, but I think this year's been pretty good compared to last year.
Yeah.
Consistent.
Yeah, okay. Just curious. I know we're getting bigger.
What was that?
Just I know we're growing.
Oh, yeah.
I'd imagine that we have more people breaking the law.
And this isn't a collection, this is not a collection or debt service. This is how much you collected on citations that were issued.
Right.
So.
Right. This is folks who just come to the window, pay their citations. Our one officer doing his collections and the collections department as well.
Oh, so all added together. Gotcha.
Is there a way to break down how much is from the warrant officer and how much is from walk-ins? I guess.
Not technically walk-ins, but I can break it down for the warrant officer for what warrants he collects, because sometimes when he makes a call, those folks do come in to the window to take care of that citation.
Okay, interesting. Cool.
Thank you. All right, utility report.
Okay, for this month, we have over 24,000 in permit fees that covered 35 permits. As a comparison, there were construction permits, there were 27 of those construction permits on the last month report. One of the questions I occasionally get is on the flags sold, if we sell flags for $5, how do we have or different dollar amounts? Well, we sell them for $5 each, American and Texas, but we sell them for $9 if you buy one each. And so that offsets the amount in multiples of 9. That question comes up about once every 3 or 4 months, so just put that out there. And the right-of-way fees, those are primarily telecommunication lines that are operating in the city. Right-of-ways hit a couple categories that I don't normally address. The continued dry weather on the city accounts of water usage has showed that we're trending higher on the water pumping. One thing I'd like to mention is because Homecoming Park drinking water fountain almost always has zeros there. It's because you have a water fountain on a water meter that records by thousands of gallons. So one day it's going to look like you have 1,000 gallons there, but it's really months of accumulated use. So just point that out.
Can you tell me what happened at Cedar Break Park restrooms? There was a ginormous spike. On page, is it 80 or 81?
81.
Well, you know what?
Oh, you.
That's year over year, yeah.
Yeah.
The 12,000 and 1,000.
The 12,000 was in August of 2020.
Yeah.
1,000 was past month.
What happened a year ago?
Specifically, if we look into that.
Yeah, that's right. I think that was a leak. That's right. Okay.
Thank
I
you.
was looking at the wrong year. All right, next up, water operations. Michael.
Hello, everyone. Mr. Mayor and Council. We have your August operations report. So district alert, so you notice that the power outages have started to drop off. If you recall last month, I reported that they made their energy made the repairs early August, so keeping an eye on that, and they're still remaining low, so they're doing good there. Nothing else to really be alarmed about. On page 3, the wastewater plant flow detail. Flow for this month is 5,078,000 gallons. Daily peak was August 16th at 235,000. Their average daily flow is 163,800 gallons. Page 4 is your discharge limitation, your effluent monitoring report. All samples were in compliance for the month of August, and we recorded a total of half an inch of rain. Pretty dry out there.
That's so bad.
Page 5 is your water report. We pumped a total of 14,408,000 gallons. Had a flushing and lease amount of 474,000, and a sold amount of 13,579,000, bringing us to a 98% accountability. To the right of it, we have your connection count, and to the right of the chart, it shows you all your remaining permit amounts, so we're very healthy there. Page 6 and 7 are supplemental charts with 13-month history for your groundwater protection and water accountability. And that's all I have, unless there's any questions for council.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you very much.
Number 16, financial report for August 2020, Anthony Lasky.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. One thing before I start off on my report, I just want to clarify something. I want to apologize for not speaking up in this instance, but the loan that will be paid off is actually not going to affect your budget because it's a liability. So it's not going to have anything to do with your budget at all. Since it'll just basically it'll reduce the reserves. That's the only thing that it'll do.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I want those reserves to go, like it, never mind. We already voted, so. I just want to make sure that 63 that was allocated there doesn't go into a general fund that we can then pull from for anything. That was my clarification on that one. But thank you.
Okay, going through your report, I'll go to both 16 and 17. So I'll start off with item 16. On page 3 of your report, you have 7 months reserve in your general operating fund currently. Page 4, your MEDC, you have 2 years, a little over 2 years reserve. Your utility fund, you have just over 11 months reserve.
What is it for a city to have in reserves that's healthy?
6 months.
Is it 6 months, 8 months?
Typically, you want to have about 6 months.
Okay.
I would say. I mean, sometimes I've seen teeter a little bit less, but generally you want to try to have 6.
And did you say we were at 8 months? Or 9?
7.
7 months, okay.
7, 11, and 2 years. What? 7, 11, and 2 years. 7 months of overage for general, 11 for utility, and 2 years for MEDC.
Page 5 in your cash flow report, the first 2 line items just show that there were excess funds for the Kroger and Pizza Shack projects. They were completed, and those monies have been since transferred back to your general fund. So now those accounts have the $10 in there, so that way if there is any projects in the future, we can use those, and we don't have to worry about those funds until future notice. Sales tax collected $466,305.61 for the month of August. You did collect the $168,494.45 for the American Rescue Plan. Those funds have since been transferred as well to the capital projects. So that will show, that shows actually on page number 7 of your report that those monies have been indeed transferred.
And they have to be, those funds have to be used for certain things, or they could use everything.
Correct, they can be used for certain projects.
Okay.
Can you say 7, and my 7 and your 7 aren't the same, so can you
It's 7 in
clarify?
my report, so that might be,
On the bottom of page 7, it's cash flow report. It's not a,
on my report it says on my report it has page 7. It might be a different page on the other.
What's the header on the page?
It says cash flow report, and it's,
Oh, you have to look at the bottom of the page.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's what I was looking at. I was just trying to find the line item. Oh, so that's the transfer in, but where did it go on accounts? That's what I was trying to look for. I apologize. I did see the cash flow in.
the cash flow is on page 5.
Thank you.
And then page 6, we did pay one of our 380 agreements to Cheatham for $36,891.84. Going on to your budget, page number 11. We did receive 300, out of that large amount that we did receive for the month of August, 349,000 of it went into your general fund. So far, a total of 2.675 million. In the sales tax category, which is 18% over what we budgeted thus far. Total revenues thus far of $4,931,000, 28% over what we had budgeted. We did receive $273,783.75 for the month of September, which is shown in the next report. And then we had expenditures for the month of August in the amount of $4,197,000, which is 7% over. So you're still doing well in your excess revenues. We did pay off your debt service payments on August 26th. So your next payments will be due on March 1st, and that will include principal and interest. I'll just go ahead and get to item 17 real quick. All of this is a summary of your quarterly investment report, just to summarize all of your money market interest and for all your taxable accounts, along with your active CDs, as well as your current pledges ending June 30th, 2021. Any questions? That's all I have.
So there's an empty fund under construction funds that's called building funds. Is this the new line item for infrastructure savings, or do we have a line item specifically that we can watch the infrastructure savings build, so that when we're talking about something like this 168,000, rather than it sitting in the general fund, it's specifically set aside for capital infrastructure?
The 168 now, because I know I did transfer it. Oh, here it is. In the taxable construction fund, that's where that money went.
Okay.
So, and it is being tracked in that fund. And it's going to stay, and it'll stay tracked in there, so that way it's being used.
So moving forward on October 1st, how are we tracking capital project infrastructure money that we're setting aside?
So we'd be able to use those funds. Well, so whenever we use those funds, we will make sure to transfer that out and use that towards those infrastructure projects.
You're talking about the text pool 168,000. I'm talking about something totally different. Last meeting, when you weren't here, maybe you were here, we voted to take this 18% of sales tax that comes in that's over budgeted and move all of that money to a savings account for capital improvement infrastructure. And so my concern is that if that's dumped into general fund, then we begin to spend it. So do we have an allocated line item or an account reserved for capital improvement infrastructure, like as we voted last city council meeting? I kind of want to see it build over the year so that the entire public knows what we have reserved for.
We can create a separate account.
Anthony, remember after the last fiscal year, we set aside money for future capital savings?
Yes, there was.
And you remember then when like I would we finished up the budget for this year, we set money aside for that, just for the same purpose?
Yes.
So that's the money she's talking about. She's asking, how is it that vacancy that's accumulated and tracked? That's really what she's asking.
Okay.
And so it may just mean that we need to make a change in your report so that it's overtly there and everyone knows, rather than being tracked.
I can do that, or have a separate account to where it just tracks it separately.
That would be awesome. Yeah. Separate account. Yeah.
That would be good.
Yeah, a separate tax pool account, so it's out of there.
Sorry to throw all that at you. And that's why I was asking, there's an empty fund under construction fund that's called a building fund. And I was asking if that is your new allocation spot because it was empty. So that, it's not.
That's actually an old account that's been closed for
Okay.
many, many years. But no, what I can do is open a new taxable account, putting that money aside.
Beautiful. That's what I wanted to make sure we. And it's great that we have 18% overage on sales tax and all these other overages, and that's fantastic. I just want to make sure we're saving it.
Any other questions for Anthony? All right, number 18, the sales tax report. Thank you, Mr. Lasky.
Okay, I've got the sales tax report, and I'll just hit this quickly. Last month, you had representatives from Sales Revenue Incorporated. They'll be out as normal every 3 months. But hit this quickly on page 1 of the report, or page 142 of your packet. You see the number of filers, 2045 for the month of September 2021. It's up 6.9% from the year before. Flipping to the next page, you see the top filers over the last 12 months. Just reading through the top 5 is McCoy Corporation, Kroger, Texas, the other side, Inc., which is Chick-fil-A. Berkshire Brothers, and AZ Enterprises, which is Pizza Shack. We like to look at the list. If you have questions on those individually, feel free.
What is AZIP again?
Pizza Shack.
Pizza Shack. And if you look at AZ, it's pizza spelled backwards.
I'm super proud that in a 4.5 square mile town, that the top 5 sales tax filers are all local brick and mortars. They're not Amazon and Walmart, and they're brick and mortars. I know that they fall down underneath, but I mean, those top 5 are brick and mortars, and they're not such big conglomerates. I mean, Pizza Shack is one of 2.
Yep, so, and even just farther down the list of the top 25, there's more of that there. Jim's Hardware is much farther down the list. And it's nice to know in a city like Montgomery, there is room for McCoy's and Jim's Hardware.
Absolutely.
And Jim's Hardware is paying more in taxes this year than they did before McCoy's was here. So there is room for.
Yep.
And Jim's moves up to place 5 in September 2021.
Yeah. So, and I'll be sending out tomorrow the confidential version of this report that has some of the confidential numbers for council to see. Again, if you have questions on that, please feel free to reach out to me. The rest of it is information you can go through if you choose to. I don't think it's really good for presentation purposes. So that concludes that report.
All right, next up, number 19, City Engineers Report for August 2021. Chris Rosnowski, WGA.
Item number 1, the downtown water replacement project. So there was a tie-in last night at College Pond. They got completed. They have 2 more tie-in at Carolina Pond, and then they'll be done with the tie-in work. So they just have to complete up testing.
They were out there at 5:30 this morning.
They were out there most of the night.
We kept them on a deadline. Remember, they get fined if they don't finish on time.
Yeah, I was surprised to see them.
Water number 3, equipment starting to arrive on site. Contractors supposed to be on site later this week. And really get into the project starting in October. Again, waiting for hopefully cool weather. GLO projects are listed. Ones to point out, we did have a walkthrough of the plans and then review for the generator project, and then also for the ditch regrading and sanitary sewer rehab on OK, Rock Road. Both of those are moving forward. Next 3 items are all related to TxDOT and either signals or speed. As of today, they're still reviewing on the TxDOT side, so we called this morning and still going through the process. And then we did receive a draft of the report for Buffalo Springs at 105 for the traffic signal analysis, and we're reviewing that. I expect to have that at the next meeting.
Is there a limitation of a city our size to how many traffic lights we need on one straight road?
As long as we're all working. So, and again, just because you do the water analysis, you still have to go through the process. So, where, 105 in Buffalo Springs, there's, meeting for Lone Star Parkway and Buffalo Springs. Buffalo Creek is a heavy hitter, so, no, there's not a limit, but all going to be.
Well, how, you can't tell, what is the, is it state mandated, how many feet apart
That's gonna be
can lights need to be?
Right, so along the TxDOT road,
Yes.
they have it, those are local city streets, so
No, but I'm talking about Pizza Shack to the high school on 105. That's what I'm talking, all the lights. Is
Yes.
there, TxDOT, can they regulate how many lights, or is there,
Yes,
what's the?
There's a limit to lights, driveways, et cetera. I don't have that number on hand, but.
Have you seen 1960?
I'm just saying.
Right, there's space required. So for example, one of the ones we most recently looked at was where Westway, so where Napa is, and then the one at Old Taylorsville. You couldn't put a light at both of those locations. You had to.
That's right. So that's why I'm asking, because it just seems like they are right one after another.
Right.
He doesn't care.
He just doesn't know what the answer is for you. You just gotta look it up.
He's like,
Well, we approve that in a minute. Put a caveat that Christopher Smowski has to follow up on that
well,
question.
somebody likes our citations are gonna go down. We're just gonna be going 10 miles an hour to the next light. Golly.
All right, on the development section, Hills and Montgomery 5 Porter Farms. We'll have both of those feasibility studies at your second October meeting. Plan reviews are listed, ongoing construction for public infrastructure, so we don't list Panda Express, Wendy's, the other ones that are also ongoing. Then the one-year warranties, Hills and Montgomery Section 3. As of earlier today, I heard that they've readdressed the cul-de-sac, that we're still having issues, so we'll be going back out this week to see and have that complete. And then the last page I have, talked about all those. The one that y'all asked about was item 5 and the turn lane. So the response is Entropy is tied up in Louisiana. So they're waiting on Entropy poles to be removed, and then they're saying it could be 4+ months to complete that.
So that's a 2022 project I'm hearing?
So, yes, essentially. So, I mean, they don't expect it to be probably for another potential 2 months. And then we're not 4 months, so.
And that's if we don't have another hurricane between now and the end of hurricane season.
Right. So, they're working on it, but there's not going to be a lot of action until the power.
And do you know any kind of timeline on the Montgomery food truck park? Because that has got a lot of buzz since Pastor Mike that lives here in Montgomery announced that he's pulling out of Deacon Baldy's to come to the Montgomery food truck park.
So we have not received revised plans, but as soon as they do, we go through that process.
I know, I was working with them because TxDOT, they approved everything in March, they never sent it to them. Do you know if that's been rectified, or have you spoken to Mike?
That was one of the questions that we asked, was to provide the backup of the TxDOT approval, because they're widening that driveway.
Yep, correct.
I have not received a response to that yet.
Okay, he finally spoke, I have the gentleman's name, and it was approved in February or March, I want to say March, and they've just been holding on to it. I don't know, so I was going to ask you if you had received it. I imagine you had called him by now, but.
Yeah, I have not.
Okay.
Is that Mike Anderson? Mm-hmm. He's such a good guy, and he's
they're good
local.
people. Yep.
Chris, given the stage that we're on Section 5, Hills of Town Creek, what's a reasonable estimate of when they're going to complete Emma's Way to Lone Star?
That'll be part of that project. So part of the
6 months to a year?
Oh, as far as the timeline, it's going to be based on the development as a whole, so which we don't have a lot of control over. Did we get a timeline from Catherine? So, I mean, it's probably, that push to that year mark by the time they get through the plan approvals, design, drainage, and the construction.
Thank you.
I make a motion that we accept departmental reports as presented.
Second. Kevin did it.
Okay,
It has been moved and seconded that we accept the departmental reports as presented. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. It is open for discussion. All those in favor of accepting departmental reports as presented, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept the departmental reports as presented. Executive session. The City Council reserves the right to discuss any of the items listed specifically under this heading or for any items listed above in executive closed session as permitted by law, including if they meet the qualifications in sections 551.071, consultation with attorney, 551.072, deliberation regarding real property, 551.073, deliberation regarding gifts, 551.074, personnel matters, 551.076, deliberation regarding security devices, and 551.087, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations of Chapter 551 of the Government Code of the State of Texas. Item number 20 on your agenda, adjourn into closed executive session as authorized by the Texas Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551 of the Government Code, in accordance with the authority contained in the following. A, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney, and in 551.072, deliberation regarding real property concerning the proposed development of the Camel Tract by Redbird Development. It is exactly 7:50 p.m. and we will go into executive session.
There we go. Thank you very much.
Julie?
This is that book he told us about during the retreat, and so I ordered it in the retreat that day. And then I started going through it last week, and I thought, that everybody has files, so I never hurt anybody's feelings to have an extra one laying around. And if it has your name on it, you can't give it away.
Bring everything.
But nobody can say that they were actually sitting in the he said that John Southern Meeting is pretty hot for users and stop sign. We did. Okay. Oh, that, she doesn't tell me. Oh, yeah. They got me all set. I got it. I'm sure they did. So, yeah, you might. That's about the most of you guys. said I would raise it, I never reached it, I see stop signs on speed. He said it's speed.
Launch or rest.
But yeah, that was pretty on the, on the warning. It was a warning. If you, have to sit down, you didn't say, I'll get by. Cool.
Thank you. Hey, you all have a good evening. Thanks. You do? First, how are you? Good, thank you. It does.
Questions tonight. You said everybody asked questions. I bet we could go back in the minutes and say that everybody asked questions.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Everybody adjourn this meeting, that motion's debatable. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. The ayes have the motion carries. Adjourn this meeting.
Oh, my. Okay.
How long have we been here? Since 5:30? Sure. 3.5 hours.
Thank you, Julie, for the book.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. That was sweet.
You have to, we'll see it out in your leadership skills, right?
Yeah, we're gonna be on display. You can tell if we read it or not.
The handy another brick is how we work together to build things together.